Hello, today is the 9th of December 2023. As always, we'll do our disclaimer, we'll go over our calls, and we'll make some predictions. So my trading plan for next Monday, which is December 11th, 2023. Please remember, it's a plan, it can be wrong, I can change it. Any trade you make should be made at your own risk. On Friday we had the pattern with the early low, which is this. Monday should be the pattern with the early high. This tends to be a rally day with a high in the final hour. We got that. This isn't quite as bullish as it seems, even though we hit a new high, for a number of reasons. One is, after rallying all day, we couldn't close any higher than the early high. This is the close. We couldn't close over this high or over this high. So all that happens was you broke out to a new high, rejected it, and after rallying all day, couldn't close over it. So that's not the kind of action you want to see. Now what counts isn't this close, but Monday's open. So if we open up here, all is forgiven. And that we're not going to know until Monday. But as of now, it's backing, it's filling, and it's nothing more. If we don't gap up, MEJT gives us a new target of 45.92.46. Now the plan was to have an early drop, and if the week's lows held, we could have another rally move, and that happened. But I had a number of price targets for the early drops low, and those never printed. So it was a bit lucky, I guess, that things worked out. It was the right move, but not the right magnitude. We were going to trade at least 230 handles over the red trend line. That price was 46.01, and that actually printed, so buying pressure from the break over that trend line has been satisfied. These are the patterns we should see next week. Early on, MEJT gave a buy signal. It means we have to trade higher. It doesn't give an entry, it gives a target, and we did trade higher than this, and that's really all you have to do. This is not the kind of action you want to see in this pattern, as I've said. A big early drop in this pattern, particularly after early strength, usually leads to further weakness. Now, usually and always aren't the same thing, but this drop is not what you should see when you break out to a new high if it's the real thing. In the afternoon, MEJT said ultimately higher price it would print. They certainly did, but it gave a lower target as well. We're going to undercut that low, so it gives us a target of 45.92.46. Now that should happen Monday unless we gap up smartly. If we gap up smartly, the price remains, but not the time. We've been looking for some time for a move at least 230 points or so over the red trend line. That came in Friday at 46.01, so that printed, and that means buying pressure for the break over this trend line has been satisfied. We're now seeing resistance from this trend line, and have a new trend line we get by connecting this low and this low over the gap, and it meets right here. So we have a point where two trend lines meet, and that becomes resistance. Now if we gap over it, that's support, and that we don't know until Monday. But right now we have a rally into resistance. This is my inverted diamond on stilts pattern. Here's your left stilt, here's the right stilt. Here's the first test of the origin of the left stilt. Here's test number 2. And this has a tendency to break in grand style. It's a tendency, it's not a requirement. All you had to do was go 1 penny under this day's close, and that never happened. But of course, this rally from a negative pattern does have potential price targets for the high. So we'll draw a Fibonacci grid from this high to the origin of the left stilt. The origin of the left, the height of the left stilt here is right at 61.8%, so that's a fib target. The height of the right stilt is 78.6, so that's a fib target. Here's the swing at 50%. That's a fib target. This consolidation has another one at 38.2. That's a fib target. This is a fib target of multiple patterns of the inverted diamond on stilt. And we also have a lower MEJT target, so it's entirely plausible that we drop here. We also have this straight line drop. I didn't quite call it a wall because of this consolidation. But usually when you have a straight line drop like that with a gap, it's not a stable pattern because you want to base before you have any rally. Normally this gets hit again and undercut. And when it's undercut, if that even happens, tends to be support. But support's been tested because we've seen that already. So if we do see this again, support should not hold. If we can't break through this, I consider this a pretty negative pattern. Of course, if we break through it, that's support, and that we don't know. Monday's pattern has a really high regardless of where price is open. There is a lower MEJT target, and unless we gap up smartly, the rules call for it to print. The minimum requirement for the gap over the red trend line was met on Friday. There's resistance from trend lines and from Fibonacci targets of the inverted diamond on stilts pattern. We had a new yearly high on the SPX, was not confirmed on NASDAQ, and transport averages actually closed down, closed lower. That's the Dow theory sell signal. The volatility index hit a new multi-year low. This is the measure of how much time premium people are willing to pay for put options, and the people who buy those options are usually wrong. It isn't a pinpoint indicator, but it shows excessive positivity on the part of these option traders and shows extreme bullishness, and they're usually wrong. So if the rally is to continue unabated, we need to gap up and promptly clear Friday's high, and anything's possible that could happen. In short, we've satisfied buying pressure, we're at resistance, and have a lower target. Gapping up smartly would turn that resistance into support. But if that doesn't happen, sentiment indicators are fully compatible with a short-term top. So Monday's pattern has the early high. If we gap up, we have support. If we don't, we have resistance with the potential for a drop at least to 45.92 and possibly much lower than that if this low gets retested. And that's today's call.